And right now it's time for that time when we have our special guest. Tonight's special guest is Peter Thompson. Peter is the Thompson in Barfoot and Thompson. Here at The Beat Goes On, we thought it was time to look at the property market and the baby boomer. We welcome Peter Thompson as our special guest on The Beat Goes On. Peter Thompson, welcome to The Beat Goes On.
Thank you very much.
A famous name, Barfoot and Thompson. Couldn't get more famous than that. You're a rock star in the real estate business.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be on the show and representing the Barfoot and Thompson family and our team of 1,400 salespeople, over 62 branches here in Auckland.
That's a lot of branches. I'm sure you must drive along in your car thinking, now, who's at that branch? It's a lot to remember, isn't it?
Certainly has changed, from year to year. When we sort of went from 20 to 30 branches, you used to know every single person in every office. I've got a good idea of all the people in the company, but just putting names to faces is a little bit of a harder time as we go on.
Let's have a look at the history of the Barfoot and Thompson. There was a young guy called Val Barfoot, was it?
That's right.
1923, can you imagine it? 1923. So he's in Newmarket and he pays £75 and he opens the first Barfoot real estate office. Wow.
The Barfoots were the first people to open the company, and then in 1934 my grandfather Morris joined the company. He'd come out of the army and joined in the sales force, and Val Barfoot saw him as a very intellectual, forward-going person, and eventually he became a partner in the business, and they were Barfoot Brothers and Thompson. Later on, it then reverted to Barfoot and Thompson, where we are today.
What do you know about Morris?
When I was 4, he passed away, so I didn't know a lot of him, but certainly the many people that worked with him, and later through my uncle and my father, we were able to get a very good picture of him. He was very highly thought of in the public sector, from the army through to his refereeing days in rugby. He had I suppose he set the principles of the company at that stage, along with Val Barfoot.
Now, when you were growing up and you were a 4-year-old boy, then a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old boy, just in the talk in the family, did you ever think that Barfoot and Thompson would grow to be what it is today? Did they have forward-thinking plans, or were they just going about their daily business and hoping for the best?
Every time I was at home, real estate was always talked about. It wasn't something that I was really rushing to get into, but I always had an interest. In my earlier days, I used to go to work during the school holidays, and I started in the valuation department. It gave me an interest to look at real estate. Sadly, my father passed away when I was only 18, and
that's sad.
It was when we were away overseas. We had a family trip planned, and we decided to still go on the trip. And while I was away, my uncle phoned me from back here in New Zealand, says there's an opportunity to work in the rental department in Otahu, and I didn't really know where I was going at that stage, and I decided now's the time to get in, and I've never looked back. It's been fantastic.
Did you ever have an inkling of any other thing that you would have liked to have done? Join the army?
Most probably accountancy. I was looking at accountancy at that stage, but I think real estate was always in my blood, and deep down I think that's where I was always going to head. Describe
real estate in 1981. Was it a little bit sleepy? Was it a little bit just going around?
It was sort of just coming out of the first major boom that I suppose real estate had.
Then the baby boomers. The mass of us, and this show's all about us baby boomers, we started buying homes, didn't we? And up went the prices. Because I can remember when Dad bought a place in Auckland for $12,000, and only about 15 years later it went for $148. I mean, that was a huge increase, wasn't it? It just didn't double its money, it nearly 10 times.
Yes.
12 times.
Correct.
So that must have caused an amazing ripple in the business. Will we ever see days like that again?
I don't think we'll see it again. No. We did go through most probably 2 or 3 different stages from the 1980s through to current time. 2003, 2004 did see a similar sort of incline in prices, and it has taken the price bracket away from the first home buyers, sadly.
That 2009 recession, did you see it coming, Peter?
No, not in the severity as it came.
Yeah.
It was more 2008 where the real estate.
End of 2008.
End of 2008 where we first saw it, and
what were the early signs? What were the sort of early signs you thought, oh, this is not looking good?
Well, it wasn't so much in real estate, it was what's happening on the sphere, and all of a sudden just prices, we started going pretty well in November, December, and then all of a sudden Christmas came. And we were hoping, Christmas is traditionally a very quiet period of time for real estate, and we're hoping that it would pick up again in January. And people overspent that Christmas of 2008, and I think the debt that they put on their credit cards, through their bank loans, etc., and all of a sudden the market tightened up in the banking sphere, just sort of put a halt to everything. That's the start when a lot of the finance companies were collapsing, so the second tier lending wasn't available, and the banks were scrutinising the repayments, so they were putting a lot of tighter lending on. So it was a combination of all those economic factors that just all of a sudden the market just fell right away.
You sell more than any other real estate company. You must be proud of that. And what do you think the reason is?
I think one of the things is we've just stuck to Auckland and Northland. We're not a company that spreads throughout the country, but I think we've just sort of started small, we've grown slowly, we've invested back into the marketplace. We're very proud of our sponsorship with Starship Hospital, and we're finally getting, the rewards of that are starting to come through. So we're putting money back into Auckland for people that have supported us in Auckland.
In your research, you're doing it all the time, aren't you, research? What are us baby boomers, what are we doing right now?
Well, they're coming to retirement age, and what we're starting to see is sell up the larger sections, so if they've still got them. A lot of them are buying sort of apartments and possibly buying a beach place around the country, or they may even have a property over, say, on the Gold Coast or in Fiji. So they can get away out of the Auckland area, or New Zealand if you like, during the winters. So we do see a lot of that.
How safe, after all the problems with the finance companies, is it still the best investment? Is it the best investment to put your money into a rock solid house?
It certainly is, but I also say to people, if people ask me that question, I say spread your money. Real estate is still one of your safest investments as well. So even though I'm in real estate, I do spread my money through all the other sectors as well.
Could you give us baby boomers any advice today? If there's one thing we should do, what would it be?
I suppose the biggest advice I could give would be to support your families. It's in buying real estate, because it is going to be harder for them as the years go by and the prices increase. One of the things that we have seen is the children of today are wanting to buy property where their parents finished up, whereas when you look at the earlier days with the parents going through their years, they had to buy and sell in lesser suburbs, build up a sort of a capital, and finish into the lifestyle they have, whereas the children of today just want to start where they're sort of at the top. So it's a matter of bringing it back to reality and downgrading what maybe their children are wanting, but supporting them, and then eventually they'll go through the same steps as their parents.
Now, what's a typical day? A typical day in the life of Peter Thompson?
My typical day at the moment is purely administration. I'm always at work at about 7:15 in the morning. I like to try and get all my emails done. I would have roughly 200 emails a day, so by the time you go through it. But I have a philosophy that I leave the office at 5 o'clock to go home to my family and spend time with my girls.
How do you see the future?
No, I think we're looking at stabilising the company at the moment. We're looking at, it's been very hard for our salespeople over the last 2 or 3 years. Some of them have earned very minimal incomes, and it's protecting and helping them, and how can they actually help to improve their service to our vendors and our clients. It's more, what can we do to help them, because if we help them, they will actually provide a better service to our customers.
Peter Thompson, thanks for coming in tonight and clearing up all those issues about real estate for us baby boomers.
My pleasure.